Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tech and Real Estate. I'm your host, Ariel, and today we have a special episode because I'm thrilled to announce Terry is officially joining me as co-host of the show. Terry is an expert in the intersection of real estate and entrepreneurship, and we're diving into his incredible journey from starting out in tech, facing a layoff, to transitioning into real estate. He's even negotiated deals directly with iBuyers like Zillow and Open Door to gain a competitive edge. All that and more in today's episode. Let's get started. Hey, Thierry, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ariel. Thank you for having me.
This is a very special podcast because the announcement of you becoming the co-host of Tech and Real Estate is finally real. So very excited to go into your background, why you got into real estate, and where are you looking today. But before we do all of that, let's take a step back. Before maybe getting into real estate investing, what was your journey?
I went to Florida State and I actually went for management information systems and real estate. So I always kind of like wanted to get into real estate, but I thought it would be in the back burner because I needed money to get started. So at first I tried to get a real estate job, and I couldn't get one. And the first tech job that I applied for, I got it. So I ended up going down the tech road. And I ended up doing several different roles from like test engineering, where you needed a security clearance, to working on like the Olive Garden mobile app. So if you've ever ordered from them, I probably worked on that, the original version.
That's incredible. So you really started off in a career where you maybe didn't think about tech, and then you transitioned into it. And what was the pain point where you were like, I don't know if I want to do corporate for the rest of my life or I want to start building passive income?
I always felt that corporate is capped, like you're capped, and then also you're kind of they want you for like a role, like a specific role, and you as a person, there's like so many things you can do. There's so many things you're interested in, but you can't always showcase that in a job, and you can't always, you're kind of boxed in. So I always knew that I didn't want my income capped, and that the job was always a stepping stone, even if it was a career.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? It's careers can be excellent because you can almost fail at times for free, without having to take any costs, which is why I always recommend for people to start off if they can, trying to be a part of a team, be a part of a larger company before going into entrepreneurship. But there are hindrances, like you said. Maybe you have an idea of how the marketing should be done on the app, but that's not your place to be suggesting that. So you can't really extend your skills maybe as far as you'd like. So this entrepreneurship vibe that you've had of, not just sticking to one task, but being able to dive into different elements of a business. Has that been something that you experienced in your past before, say, this job that you had when you were working on the app?
Yes, while I was like throughout my corporate career, I always have like something else on the side, in my free time, of course. So I'd work my 9 to 5, and then from 6 to 2 a.m. I would be either researching or learning or working on something else. I got into e-commerce. So even in high school, like I was selling electronics and calculators. Like I was going to the post office all the time. My dad's like, "What are you doing?" And then I sold Egyptian cotton sheets that I got from China. Don't ask me. Um, and I sold them on Craigslist, and eventually I sold them on eBay. And that led me to growing into an e-commerce business where I ultimately was selling like branded t-shirts to Fortune 500 companies. They would have them at conferences and stuff. They would buy thousands at a time and stuff like that. And eventually I made enough money in that to do it full time.
Wow, it's insane, right? Like selling
Yeah.
Egyptian cotton sheets and then ending up selling t-shirts for Fortune 500 companies that they could use at their events. So really starting from like the ground level and working your way up. What were some learning lessons that you had in this early phase of entrepreneurship?
You have to wear many hats. You have to continually learn, and and you get to and it's great because you get to grow. There's like going through all those different processes, you grow along the way. So, and opportunities come to you that you didn't even expect. So, the custom aspect of my e-commerce business of working with Fortune 500 brands, that came from someone reaching out to me and like, hey, I see you do this. Um, can you do a custom one? And then they're like, can you do 300 of them? And I was like, I didn't know that I could do it, but I just said yes. And then I figured it out on the back end. So that led me to, selling thousands and thousands of, I probably sold like 50,000 shirts in total. Yeah.
That's insane. Over how long of a period of time was this? Over like
It was
years?
over, years. Yes. Yeah.
Incredible. So you learn not just how to build something from the ground up, but also how to have it be sustaining for a period of time. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming then for real estate, if you already have this like entrepreneurship mindset, maybe things that scare some people when thinking about real estate, like being a landlord and having to maybe play like in the middle of contacting contractors and having many different hats as well. Maybe that didn't scare you initially. Is that true?
There's several things like when you're getting started, you don't have to know. Even now, I have to like remember that you don't have to know everything in the beginning. You only have to know the next step. And there's a bunch of people that have already done that. What you want to do. Um, so you get in touch with those people. So one of the first things I did was join a community. Like when I left um corporate the first time, I joined like a business community. So I wanted to be in a room with people smarter than me that I can ask questions and just to keep me on track and stuff like that.
That's excellent. Was this community like $1,000 to get
Mm.
in, or what was the barrier to entry, if any?
No, it was called Tampa Bay Business Owners, and it was um I think it was you could go to the first few sessions for free, and then it was just there was a small like monthly fee to I think it was an annual fee, and then you could meet monthly.
I love that, right? It's sometimes we forget that there are resources that can help us to grow and to learn that are right in our backyard. And
Hmm.
being able to actually meet with people in person, you'd be surprised how much faster some of those questions that you had could get answered.
And it's also motivation to keep going and stuff like that. At first, I was a little apprehensive that my business wasn't as big as some of the people there and stuff like that, but I got over that quickly. It helped that the owner was very like welcoming. That helped a lot.
So let's talk about that first property that you were looking to acquire. Why did you decide to actually end up jumping into real estate, and how did you finance that first property?
Originally, I wanted to get into real estate, and I heard about the iBuyers. So I wanted to track them and see what they were doing, where they were buying, and things like that. I just wanted to see. I was just curious as to like what trends. Were there any trends that I could see? Were there any hot spots? Where they were buying, if they were making profits and losses and things like that. And ultimately, I fell on Altamont Springs. So originally, I was looking in Orlando, but ultimately, based on all that research and following them around, I was like, it seems like they lose money a lot, but they don't lose that much money in Altamont. It seems like they always make at least a profit, some type of profit in Altamont, and all of them are buying there. But at the time, I didn't have the money to buy. So what ended up happening at my corporate job, there was layoffs. The company was bought out by another larger company, and they ended up laying me off. But with that layoff, they gave me a severance package. And while some people would run away and like get conservative and stuff like that, I was like, this is perfect. I'm gonna put all my time and attention into getting another job so I don't like lose income and I don't have a gap in history. And I'm gonna use that severance package as a down payment.
Incredible. I mean, so, a lot of things to break out here, but first with the financing, right? You had a time where it's pretty difficult, right? Having a layoff, but you did get a severance package, as most people who are laid off do. And instead of going on a trip through the Caribbean for a couple of weeks, you decided, I'm going to invest this money for my financial future. So that's
Yeah.
excellent that you decided that to make a bad situation, as most would say, into a good one. But then going into your research, you first are thinking, maybe I can invest locally, so in Orlando. But then you decide, maybe I should follow these iBuyers. So let's pause there. For those that don't know what iBuyers are, that's a new term. What are iBuyers and why was it relevant during a time that you were looking to track what they were doing?
Yeah, iBuyers were very big at the time. I mean, there's still some around now, but it was Zillow, Open Door, and OfferPad were the ones that I was tracking. Um, and they're just big corporate entities that were purchasing properties at a wholesale price, hopefully for them, and then immediately putting it back on the market and selling it at a retail price. So they were making it easier for sellers to not have to list it, to not have to do anything to the home, the usual selling process. They'll just pay cash for it, and then you can move and get the money to go make another purchase. And then they're selling it to retailers.
Really interesting, all the research that's come from that piece and how they had a hypothesis of, you know what, maybe people will sell their home more frequently if we can give them the, take the keys, give them the cash, maybe do light fixing, and then resell it on the other end. As we know, their algorithms were not perfected at that stage, so there was a lot of money lost. But they weren't doing this just anywhere across the US. They were focusing in on specific pockets. And likely because they had a ton of data to help them back, that those areas were probably going to have appreciation. So were you mostly trying to follow them for the appreciation standpoint, as well as cash flow? Or what was your thinking that kind of lined up with your ultimate goals of the property you were looking for?
Yes, it was both. It was for appreciation mostly, but it was also to just see like where they were going, what profit margins, what types of properties were they going after, what did they consider was a good property, what profit margins on average were they getting when they sold, to see like what they expected to make as a profit, to see if there was any wiggle room there, and to see like if there to see any hotspots that I wasn't thinking of. I was trying to stick to Orlando and maybe certain zip codes, and then by expanding my research by following them, that's what led to me to Altamont Springs, which is close to Orlando, but it wasn't something I was considering originally.
Got it. And I'm assuming, I mean, this data that you were sifting through, you must be like an incredible data whiz, and you must have paid hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for this data. Is that true? Or was there another way that you were able to source it?
No, there's a lot like easier ways and better software and things like that. So I was doing it very old school. Yeah, I was just using Zillow and spreadsheets and manually getting the data. But there's a lot better and smarter ways to do it now.
Smart though. And you were, I think, using county data as well, right? To try to get who the buyer was to make sure that they were Zillow
Yes,
or
I was using Zillow, Redfin, and then Orange County property appraisers and Seminole County.
the viewers or listeners to focus on this piece here. You don't have to create this, elaborate scheme of how to get data together and how to pull all these different sources to find maybe the best neighborhood cities or properties. If you could even take some of these manual steps, like understanding what is happening in my area. Oh, a lot of properties are getting sold or purchased. By who? Seems like a lot of iBuyers. Maybe they're onto something. Where else are they buying? Like that was such, someone may say like simple, like thought process, but yet so many people would never have thought of that. And like, it's amazing how you were able to think about it and then actually execute it, even if it was manual, but you were still able to have the end result of finding that city that you ended up investing in.
There's a lot, the Orange County. There's so much data there in the property appraisal websites. So if you just look for your city and then property appraiser, there's just so much like free data there, and you can download usually in a lot of them. their Excel sheets and stuff like that, and then so you can sort and um, do calculations from there. So yeah, it's definitely you can definitely take advantage of free resources.
So then now you know exactly where you want to invest. You're starting to look at properties. What did you end up landing with? What was maybe the bedroom count or strategy that you were also looking to do?
I was gonna live in it, so like a house hack where you live in it. I ended up with a townhome. It was a 3-2 townhome. So I was looking for, well, I usually look for homes that like families would live in because I want like long-term buy and hold, just less turnover. So I like nice homes in quality areas with good schools and stuff like that. So I found a townhome in a little area that's it's kind of landlocked, so there's not a lot of building that can go around it, but it's close to like a Costco, Publix, a gym. That's what I ended up with, and I analyzed the neighborhood, and it was a good neighborhood, and but the property itself, the price that they had it listed at was closer to a price of a larger homes that were selling than what it actually was. It was a 3, 2.5, around 1,500 square feet. I brought that up to them. I didn't have a realtor for this first one, so I called them and I gave them like a different price, and they were like, we'll think about it or something like that. So they went off and they eventually came back to me. This was towards the end of the year. They eventually came back to me and they were like, we can't sell it at that price, but we can do it. I think it was 209 or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. And the property, I lucked out in the way because the property was built in 2012, and the person that originally bought it, I think they immediately got a job elsewhere, so it was barely lived in. Like they total probably lived in there like 6 months, and I don't even think she rented it out. So it was a barely lived in, like perfect quality.
Yeah, what a steal, right? Like you were able to find you had a specific buy box, and I want to mention that because it's a lot easier to be able to sift and find a great deal or a home run deal if you know your buy box well. So you knew exactly like what streets, kind of neighborhoods you were going for, the type of property, and then when you found that property that you wanted to put an offer on, you were like, the price doesn't make sense because I've been viewing properties like this for a period of time already. This is too high. So you're able to have that knowledge ahead of time. And when you said you communicated that you wanted to purchase this property, was it to the seller? Was the seller an iBuyer or was it an individual person?
Yes. So the benefit of doing that research originally was just to follow them and get locations. They owned that property. So I ended up negotiating directly with the iBuyer. So it's not a person that's like emotionally attached to the property, that's like emotionally attached to the price. You can be more aggressive, and then, the worst thing they could do is say no. Yeah. And also because it was the end of the year, a lot of these companies, they want to either show their profit or show their loss, or get the property off their books, get it out the way. A good time to negotiate.
Even though maybe the iBuying has slowed down, especially in the Central Florida area, maybe it's
Hmm.
picking up in other areas. So if someone wanted to do this type of research and they see like, oh, Open Door is buying a lot near me, the steps they would do would be maybe going to Zillow to get property information, using their assessor county's website to get additional data. And then if they're doing this at the end of the year, could even be a bonus to be able to get the property at a lower rate. Excellent. So now that you've been able to acquire your first deal with a really interesting strategy, iBuyer, what are your next steps? How does the house hack go and how do you get into your next property?
Yes, because I was following them for appreciation and things like that. Altamont was an undervalued area. Like I was tracking the median home price for and the zip code in particular, stuff like that. So it was undervalued. Just a couple years later, I didn't do anything to the home as far as like upgrading it, trying to force appreciation, but the iBuyers were still very active. And at this time, Zillow was also iBuying. I was looking to sell, and I got an offer from all of the iBuyers, and Zillow was the best offer. And just a quick point of how they did things differently. Open Door and OfferPad, they did it like virtually. Zillow actually sent someone out to look at the place and stuff like that, and based on the condition, and that there was zero repairs needed, they gave me like a very generous offer that I couldn't refuse.
Because you selected a property in an area that was undervalued, you're able to, in only a couple of years, really see your wealth grow by being able to sell this property at a higher rate.
And then I used that property to go into another great area, but I'd say a C property. So yeah, it was a property that needed work, but it was in a great area. So because I had some equity from that first sale, I was willing to live in it again as a house hack, and to make the repairs while I was there.
And are you doing the repairs yourself? Or are you like super handy while you felt confident to do this? Or how did you start to do the repairs for this property?
I'm not handy at all. So my plan was always to get contractors, but first I had to live in it, either on a podcast or a YouTube video. They're like, when you first like purchase a property, don't immediately start doing stuff. So give it a couple weeks. So that way I could see like what was wrong, what really needed to change and stuff like that. And you go through some pains with doing it that way. Like I ended up taking some cold showers because the water heater went out on me. Florida has, I'm sure you know, giant palmetto bugs, and because of the windows, they could creep in because the windows were old and stuff like that. So that was something that was mandatory for me to change and stuff like that. And by going through this process and making these things that, if I'm pretty like picky person, so if I make the repairs and the fixes that annoy me, it will be great for a tenant. So, and also the bathroom was like very dated. That's the first thing on the list. The bathroom, the windows to stop those lizards and other things from getting in the house, and a new water heater. I ended up finding a contractor, getting the windows replaced and getting the water heater replaced. And then I was going to do more, do the kitchen and stuff like that. But I spoke to a property manager, and they're like, because of this location and what you've already done, it's rent ready. And I was like, oh, really? So I just accelerated my plans and started looking for another property to move into, and I was going to list this one for rent.
Excellent. You dived headfirst into another house hack, but this time it was going to be one where you were going to force appreciation via repairs. And I love that you took the approach of kind of waiting a couple of weeks and deciding what are the biggest pain points as I'm sitting here and living in the property. Now that you do this fix and flip, you're gaining confidence in being able to talk to not just, say, potential tenants, but also to different team members that usually people have in real estate, like property managers, someone who can help you fixing, like you said, the windows, the water heater, I believe it was. How did you start to source like this team of people that you trusted and would reach out to?
So the contractor, I went on a date with a girl that she was also interested in real estate, and she was also actually into rental properties and things like that. And she was telling me that she just had her bathrooms redone, and she showed me pictures, and I was like, oh, that looks really good. So she gave me her contractor's information, and I met with them, and I felt comfortable with him. After getting like other quotes and stuff, he still I felt comfortable with him, so I ended up going with the contractor that I got off a Bumble date.
I love that. And that's a note for everyone. Like, always talk about what you're doing. Don't be shy, whether it's on a date, someone you meet at the bus stop. Like, it's great you never know, like, who will be connected to other folks that can help you in whatever project you're working on. So for someone who is trying to decide on what really makes a property rent ready, like what level of finishes do they need to do? Do they need quartz countertops or maybe something kind of in between? How do they know what level of finishes to do?
Yeah, the best thing they could do is look at the comps in the area. But for me, I had a property manager, so I leaned a lot on that property manager. They have the most data. They have the most relevant data. They're in the fields day in and day out. So I really listen to their recommendations. So if he's like, this is fine, I would add ceiling fans to all the rooms. So I did that. He was like, the bathroom is wonderful that you did that, and the kitchen, which I was gonna do. He was like, you probably don't have to do that right now, and for what it would cost you to improve it, you probably won't get the ROI in the rent. I think that was the major factor. When he said that, I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And
Mm,
sometimes when we look at HGTV, for example, we might get caught up like, oh, if I do all these finishes, then someone's going to want to pay X amount more for rent. But that's not always the case, right? Like you said,
mhm,
people who are tenants usually care a lot about location, things to do, work wise, convenience. Where if
mhm,
you made a marble bathroom, for example, they may be like, okay, well, I don't care to pay an extra $1,000 for that. Like
mhm.
that's not in my scope. So I love that you mentioned that. Property managers also can be really great resources because besides just the images, they have people on their team who are literally doing tours usually to get these properties rented. So they're hearing firsthand what are tenants looking for right now.
Yes, exactly. They have the most up-to-date information.
Excellent. So now at the stage of your portfolio, what does it look like today in terms of number of properties, the mix of what type? If it's still, townhomes that you focus on, what does your portfolio look like today?
It's still single family homes, a townhome, and just a single family standalone home. And I'm looking to get into small multifamily. Also new construction. I have a new construction property and I may add one more, and then I'll venture out into other things, either larger properties, larger small multifamily, or finally going out of state. That's where I'm dragging, or out of the area. That's where I'm dragging my feet.
What's your biggest apprehension with going out of like the Central Florida area?
Not be able to like drive by and see it, or things like that. Keep an eye on it and things like that. So it's just, I guess, getting over that convenience of having it in the backyard.
Yeah, it's like it's completely understandable. A lot of folks also have that concern when they're looking to invest out of state. But I think
Hmm.
based on the relationships that you've been able to bridge already, you can find like a trusted group of whether it's agents, project manager, property managers, or contractors in another area where even if you weren't there, you'd feel pretty confident. But I do like to, if you can, at least fly out once a year if you're investing out of state to where your properties are.
Yeah, so I'll get there eventually. And also, I think it's a good idea, I've heard, to go where you have people, like you mentioned, or places you're kind of familiar with. Like I went to school in Tallahassee. I'm familiar with the area. That could be an area. Like I've been in Orlando a long time, but I'm from up north in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So, and I have family that's still there. So those could be areas that I would look into, and just things like that. So, like you said, like using your network and working from there. That's where I would start.
Excellent. And Thierry, what do you see for opportunities in the future in real estate?
And what you hear about, but sometimes you don't always like think about it and see it, is, like the wealth transfer. I tried to go on a contract on a property where the dad was the landlord. He was the hands-on landlord, mowing the lawns and doing all this stuff. And, he passed away and he's leaving like a bunch of properties to his children, and they want nothing to do with real estate. So I think these are great opportunities where there's, as much as we love real estate, not everyone does. So there's opportunities where there's 100% owned properties, and there's room for creative deals, seller financing, things like that. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity, especially those, yeah, who are at that age. They have these properties. Their heirs don't want to really do anything with them. And it could be a
Hmm.
really great opportunity to provide a win-win scenario on both ends.
And also, I believe, like with the iBuyers, I believe there's, like you mentioned, the algorithm just needs to be tweaked. I think that was the first iteration of it. I think the idea is there's still a lot of good there. So I think they're going to come back. I mean, Open Door and OfferPad are still around, but I think that idea is still good. There's going to be iterations of it. So there's going to be opportunities there where they may not have it 100% right, but we can kind of follow them again.
Definitely. Let's see. We may have to get a Thierry dashboard of iBuyers map going.
Yeah,
We could track on the
exactly.
regular.
Hmm. Exactly.
Well, great. With that, Thierry, if those want to follow you, learn more about your journey, how would they do so?
They could follow me on my website, and it's just my first name, Thierry, Thierry .app, and it's the same thing on social media and LinkedIn.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Thierry. And I'm excited to create more content and deliver even more useful information together. Thanks.
All right, thank you.